What is up, you guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. My name is Michaela Anissa. It's nice to meet you and welcome to the fam. You should join us. Stay for a while, click that subscribe button down below. Make sure to turn on the notification bell so you get notified when I upload my vids. And let's get into today's video. Alright, you guys, so for today's video, I'm going to be covering my top 5 glute exercises for glute growth. You guys are here for the booty gains. You want to know the details, how you grow your butt, and I'm here to cover all that in today's video. I will put before and after photos just up on the screen here. Of the last, honestly, like year and a half is when I really started growing my glutes and really focusing on that and understanding how to grow them properly. I have been doing like different kinds of workouts for a while and like would do glute focused workouts, but I was doing like a lot of like really light work. I wasn't really focusing on my compound lifts. So I'm here to tell you guys the most effective way I personally find to grow your glutes are, in my personal opinion. Obviously everyone can have their own opinion. This is my personal opinion. It's what's worked for me and for my glute growth. I have grown my glutes from, I think they were like 38 inches and now they're like, we're coming up on 43 inches. So we've done that, and it's all thanks to these workouts plus fueling your body, having enough protein, having enough eating. But I can do a whole separate video on that for you guys if you guys want to see it, so let me know. Before we even get into the exercises though, I just want to say, because this is a huge thing for me personally and I find the biggest difference in my muscle growth when I'm doing this, but drinking enough water. I cannot say this enough to you guys. If you're not drinking enough water, your muscles are basically made up of water. Our whole body is like 95% water. So if you're not drinking enough water, your muscles won't look as full. Also, it helps when you're training to have like water in your body, staying hydrated. It helps with your skin, your hair, your nails. It's more than just the gym. It helps with your digestion. It's literally the best thing you can do for yourself, and it's also the easiest thing you can do for yourself. So if you're wanting to see progress and you feel like you haven't been, I bet you're not drinking enough water, because that's a huge thing I find for myself. When I am feeling a little discouraged about my progress, I definitely notice that when I'm not on top of my water intake, I just look less full. My muscles, like my butt especially, I just notice it looks like flatter, I guess you could say. Like, I don't know if I'm making any sense. Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. But if you're not drinking enough water, it affects everything, not just your muscles. But if you're wanting to have gains and progress in the gym, it's so important to make sure you're having enough water. Personally, I try to drink a gallon of water a day. That's a lot of water, I know. Yes, I pee 500 times a day. It's okay. It's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make. If you're a beginner and this whole thing seems a little bit scary and you're like, oh my god, how the hell do you drink a gallon of water every day? Let's just bring it back in a little bit. If you're starting from being the kind of person that barely drinks any water at all, I would not go straight to drinking a gallon of water, because your bladder is gonna want to die. So I would honestly try to drink around 1 liter and then work your way up after like a couple weeks. Like, you'll get used to it, trust me. Like, it takes a second, but you'll get used to it. Another tip for getting enough water in is making your water taste good. So like adding like lemon or lime in your water is always a good one. I personally love adding the Sierra hydration. I actually have some right here with me because I literally almost always have this on hand, because this is all I drink like all throughout the day. Is I have my gallon jug, and then I also will just constantly be filling this up with hydration from Sierra. So this is the new fruit punch flavor. I'm literally obsessed with it. It tastes so good. It just makes drinking water more fun than just like basic water, and it helps me get more in because this is literally juice. This tastes like amazing. It's so good. I do have a code with Sierra. You guys know this by now, so I'll just put it on the screen here. I'll have it linked down below as well if you wanted to try out the hydration. I'm obsessed with it. It's so good, and it helps me get my water in. For me personally, I just like adding it in to some of my liquids so that it helps me drink more water than just having plain water the whole day. So that was my first tip. I just wanted to get that out of the way before we get into like my top 5 glute exercises, but I just feel like I just needed to talk about water because it's so important. Honestly, I couldn't do this video without talking about it, because it does affect so much of your progress if you're not drinking enough water. So make sure you're doing that. I'm gonna be on top of you. So let's get straight into the top 5 glute exercises. We're gonna start off with, of course, hip thrust. So we're gonna start off with the holy grail. If you've watched any of my glute videos, you know hip thrust, baby. Those are the OG glute demolishing exercise. These are essential compound lift for your glutes. It is the most intense exercise I find personally to target just my butt and the back of my hamstrings. Like, I only feel it there. That is it, always, no matter how heavy I go, how light I go. And that's the other thing that's amazing about hip thrusts is whether you're a beginner or an expert, there is many different variations you can do depending on your fitness level, which is so amazing. So for my beginners out there, if you've never done a hip thrust before, you have your back against a bench and your feet at 90 degrees. And you put the bar or like a dumbbell. If you're a beginner, I would start with a dumbbell and I would just place it on your lap. You're going to thrust your hips up and drive with your glutes and your hamstrings as you pull up, and you're going to make sure you're bracing that core. That's what the biggest thing with hip thrust is, to make sure you're bracing your core. You don't want to have an arch in your back, stuff like that, because that's going to cause injury and we don't want that happening. And we just want maximum glute gains. We don't want to have back problems. So make sure you're always bracing your core. That goes for every lift, but especially in hip thrusts, because when you contract your core and you push your hips up at the same time, that's how you get the maximum amount of glute contraction at the top of the movement. Thrusts are something that I have been doing since, honestly, the first like 6 months of my fitness journey. I had already started working on them. I used to just do them with a little dumbbell and that was it. And then I graduated from the dumbbell to like a preloaded barbell. You know, the ones that have like this stuff already preloaded on it. Basically, you stand it up on the side. Again, for my beginners, here's a little tip. Stand it up on the side, and then when you go to do your lift, you can just flip it onto you, and that's it. You can also add a barbell pad to the preloaded barbells as well. So if you were having issues with your hips, it like hurts you a little bit, the dumbbell's kind of digging in a bit, sometimes the preloaded barbell, even if you're using a 20-pound one, you can place that hip pad on there still and it will protect your hips. So that's a little tip for you guys, but you can just put it right on you. Super easy setup. And then for my advanced girls out there, you can use a barbell. I usually do hip thrusts with a barbell, or I use like a glute building machine. My gym didn't have one until very recently, so I've gone my entire fitness journey without using it until very recently. So trust me, you definitely don't need to have that equipment. You can make do with pretty much anything for this exercise. Okay, let's talk about the different ways you can do hip thrusts, because there's so many variations. I'm gonna name my top 3 because there's honestly so many, but my top 3 are just the regular barbell hip thrust. So you're going all the way down, all the way up, CAS, glute bridges, or hip thrust, which means that you are basically doing like a pulse. You're only doing like a half rep, but it really gets that mind to muscle connection going. It gets your glutes fired up. You're really focusing on just contracting those glutes and time under tension. So that one is like, I usually do a little bit lighter. Like, I'll honestly use half the weight that I do for my regular barbell hip thrust when I do CAS, because it's so intense and you're really focusing on being slow and controlled in those movements. But it's so great for hypertrophy training and really growing the volume in your glutes. So I would definitely add those in if you haven't already. And then my third favorite variation is B stance hip thrust, baby. I've been doing these for probably a year and a half now, and I've noticed so much glute growth, honestly, from adding these into my workouts, because basically what you're doing is you're staggering your feet so that like about 70% of the load is on one leg and about 30% is on the other. So it's not like a full one side, but it just really burns, you guys. OMG. And I love a single side exercise, because for me personally, I like to work on imbalances, making sure my body's aligned. There's not like one glute stronger than the other, you know what I'm saying? We don't want one booty cheek that's like an inch bigger. B stance for me really helps with the imbalances as well as cable kickbacks. I know there's a little bit of like stuff on the internet about cable kickbacks, but if you do them properly, they're a great exercise. It's just, I feel like social media is kind of steered away from those because of how people have portrayed kickbacks, like grow your glutes with just this exercise. No, you can add it into your program and it will help aid in glute growth as well as helping with imbalances. It's one of those exercises that's really isolating, but it's not a bad exercise. I just felt like I needed to say that because I honestly get hate for still doing them, and I personally love them and I've noticed a lot of growth with them, but I do them in a specific way. So I'll usually do them as an accessory movement. I also do it in addition to my compound lifts. I don't do it to replace compound lifts, if that makes sense. So anyways, back to the B stance hip thrust. So those have been like a really, really great exercise for me. Okay, so the next exercise that is essential, in my opinion, for your glute growth is actually Bulgarian split squats. OMG, love these. You guys, if you've been following me for a long time, you know that I am obsessed with Bulgarians, and that makes me sound like I'm a psychopath because most people absolutely hate them, but girl, I'm obsessed. I love them, and I think it's because I've seen so much progress and results from doing these and adding them into my programs. So let's just get straight into it. Bulgarians are a very challenging exercise, so honestly, if you are worried about stability and you're worried about falling over, I would just start with trying to do a lunge first for my beginners out there. But once you've graduated from doing a lunge, then you can start practicing your Bulgarian split squat. I would just do body weight first. You can basically use a bench, or you can also use like a little ledge, because honestly your foot could be only this high off the ground and it's just as effective, if not more effective in my opinion, than using a bench. I just started doing this and I find I get a lot more contraction in my outer glute because I can get more depth. You're gonna put your back leg up on the bench or whatever you're using, and then you're gonna have either, I would start with body weight if you're a beginner. If you're more advanced, I would use one dumbbell like in between your legs, just on one side, and then you can stabilize like either by putting your hand like this, or you can put it out like this. It just is a lot easier for balancing. And then once you've gotten more comfortable with that, you can start using like 2 dumbbells. Some people even use a barbell. Can we talk about, I don't know if y'all saw this TikTok, but some guy was doing literally like, I think he had 2 or 3 plates on the barbell, and was Bulgarian split squatting it. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? I thought I was being psycho with my 65s. I was humbled real quick. Literally goals, like I wish. Bulgarians are amazing for like inner thighs, outer glute, hamstrings, and your quads are recruited as well during that movement, but I really, really, really feel it in my inner thighs and my outer glute, and that's why I love this exercise. You're really gonna try and get that depth. Make sure you're going all the way down to 90. Biggest thing with exercises like this is making sure that your form is in check. You wanna make sure your core is stabilized, your shoulders are like twisted or twisted this way. You wanna make sure everything's facing forward and straight. When you're holding the weight, make sure you're locking your lats down so you're not overusing your upper traps or anything like that. You wanna make sure that your body is in the proper position to target the areas that you're trying to work on and not have other muscles being recruited like your back or your neck, and then you could possibly get injured. So definitely make sure you're doing that and start with a weight that you're comfortable with and then work your way up from there. Every time you should be lifting, you should be trying to push yourself to the next level. Try a little bit more. That's how you're going to see a lot of progress. It's called progressive overload. Basically, you're overloading your muscles to their maximum over time. So like when you go to the gym, you'll start with, let's say 10 pounds to make it easy. And then the next, let's say you're doing lateral raises and you start with 10s, and then, okay, that's feeling challenging. Your last 2 reps are a little rough. That's perfect. That's what we want. We want the last couple reps to feel rough. That's how you know you're at a good weight, you're pushing yourself. And the next time, maybe try 12s. And if that's too much, then go back to the weight that you did before, because again, you want to make sure your form's still good. If you're going up in weight too quickly, a lot of times your form will start to be compromised, and we never want that, because once form starts getting compromised, we're more at risk for injury, and no one wants that. So just letting y'all know. Next staple exercise for me, so the third staple exercise for glute growth, is step ups. This is a new one for me because I just started adding this into my programs, and it is such a good exercise for the booty. So basically how you do a step up is you can do it on like with a dumbbell, you can do it on the Smith machine. You could do it on like the squat rack with a barbell, but I don't recommend that. That sounds terrifying. I personally like doing it with just a dumbbell, and I honestly only use like a 20-pound dumbbell. Like, this is a very challenging exercise and you don't need to go heavy, so don't be an ego lifter and don't grab like a 50-pound weight, because trust me girl, it's gonna be a rough one. So basically what you do for step ups is you set up like a box or some type of thing that you can stand up on that's around knee height. I would say like 9, so your leg can go 90 degrees when you step up on the box. You don't want it to be more than that unless you're like hella freaking strong, because I personally, like, as soon as I hit 90, that's when I start to kind of drop. My form starts to get a little iffy, which is why I go a bit lighter in the weight, because I really try to stabilize my hips and really focus on just driving with my glute, not using my extra leg that's like kind of hanging. You'll see what I'm talking about. I'll put a video on the screen here. And you want to really make sure that you're just lifting with your glute and your hamstring on that one leg that you're using, and you're not like shifting down and like letting your core fall and like falling forward. Some people find that it's a little bit easier to feel it in your glutes if you lean forward a bit, so try that if you're not feeling it in your glutes, because it's one of those things that you have to adjust kind of to your own body. Kind of got to play around with it a bit, but the basics are still the same for everyone. The fourth exercise, I don't know why I did that, it looks so weird. The fourth exercise that is a staple for glute growth is reverse lunges. I have been a lunge girl for a long time. I love me some lunges. You can again start with just a dumbbell or your body weight, and then work your way up to doing it on the barbell. If you're using dumbbells, I would honestly recommend, if you're a beginner, to use one in one hand for the first time, like the same kind of vibe as the Bulgarian split squats, where it's like kind of in between your legs, and then work your way up to having two, one on each side of your leg, and then you can start using the barbell once your core stability is good and you're feeling nice and strong. You can start doing it on there. I personally love doing it both ways. I still incorporate dumbbell lunges in my workouts. I think both of them are just as effective as each other, so don't think that you're missing out on gains because you can't do it on a barbell. Basically what you do for a lunge is you set up just like straight on, and then basically you're going to lunge backwards and then push yourself back up to like a standing position, and then just do that over and over. You want to be focusing on the depth that you're getting, making sure that your core is stabilized. It's the same kind of things that I keep saying over and over, but like it is so important for your glute growth to have everything correct and in the right position. I love reverse lunges. It's a good time. I've honestly been doing these for years. Like in the beginning of my fitness journey, I couldn't even do a body weight lunge, and I always wanted to be able to like use the barbell and do a lunge. I always thought that was so cool. So I worked up from not being able to even do a body weight lunge because I had really bad knee problems, and then I did dumbbells, and then I worked up to doing barbell lunges, and I've never looked back since. They are such a staple in all my workout programs that I've ever done for myself, so I would definitely consider adding them in to your workout program if you're trying to focus on growing your glutes, because it's such a great exercise. And again, we're doing a single side movement, so we can really focus on one cheek at a time. Okay, and the fifth exercise that is essential for your glute growth, I can't even talk, you guys. It's getting to the end of the video, and classic me, I can't even speak anymore. The fifth and honestly most important exercise, I don't know why I didn't start with this, but let's save the best for last, girl. RDLs. Oh my god, literally RDLs, you guys. Best, never will look back. The best exercise, the holy grail. We're obsessed. I am obsessed with RDLs to the point where I basically do them every leg day, like every leg day, no matter what. And I've noticed the most insane amount of progress from them. I've also progressed like weight-wise quite quickly, which has been so satisfying. So highly recommend. So basically, let's just chat about RDL really quick. So it's a variation of a deadlift. I personally am just getting back into deadlifting, so I'm not gonna be the one to tell you how to do your form properly, because I'm still trying to figure it out, girl. I don't even know. Deadlifts are something that are so difficult for so many people, and for me personally, I struggle a lot with the form on deadlifts, so I'm not even gonna talk about it because we're not gonna talk about that. But RDLs, girl, I got you. I've nailed those. RDLs are different than a regular conventional deadlift. So for RDLs, it's mostly focusing on your glutes and your hamstrings, and when you're doing it, it's different than a straight leg deadlift. Straight leg deadlift, you're going to go all the way down, like the weight touches the floor and you're coming back up. When you're doing an RDL, you're just focusing on time under tension. I honestly stop just around my shin right here. I used to go a little bit deeper, but it actually started bothering my back. I was doing a bunch of research on it, and I actually saw a bunch of research saying that it's actually less effective to go super deep into the movement because you're taking the tension off of your hamstrings and glutes and putting it onto your back. So I shortened my range a little bit because my range of motion was honestly probably a little bit much. Honestly, I find personally that I feel it more when I do it with a barbell versus dumbbells, but everyone can find their own personal preference. When you're doing an RDL, make sure that you are bracing your core as always. But also the biggest tip that I can tell you guys is you're not thinking about like bending forward. You're thinking about leaning back and pushing your hips back. That's the cue for me that made the biggest difference, because it's really, it looks like you're just bending forward when you see someone do an RDL, but that's not the kind of movement that you're doing. If you're just doing that, you're gonna feel it in your back. Basically, the biggest cue I can give you is you're gonna drive your hips backward because you're hinging at your hips. So the movement is coming from your hips, which is why it's such a great glutes exercise. So when you're doing an RDL, make sure when you set up and you're ready to go, you're gonna brace your core, you're gonna push your lats down because you wanna stabilize your shoulders, and so you're not using your neck or your lower back. And you're gonna drive your hips backward and leave your upper body basically stays the same. Like if you think about it, it stays the same, and you lean forward, and you drive your hips back, which makes your body lean forward. You're not actually physically bending over. You're driving your hips back, and that in turn is making your body lean forward. It's like a biomechanical thing, but it's a really, really good cue to give yourself, is to drive your butt back instead of thinking about bending over. So I hope that helps you guys. That is actually it for today's video. I just wanted to talk about my top 5 glute growing exercises. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have anything to add, let me know in the comments. If you guys have exercises that you love to do that I didn't mention in this video, let me know. We can all chat about it in the comments. I love you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!